forum for the city of Salinas at 6 p.m. And we want to be prompt with our time because we do have a few questions and we don't have a whole lot of time. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Pastor Smith. I'm Smith. I'm from New Hope Baptist Church, also from Building Healthy Communities as a Black Power Builder, and I'll be co-moderator with Adriana, who will introduce herself.
Thank you, Pastor Smith. This is Adriana, Frederick, Sutton, reporter, producer from Noticias Univision, Costa Central. Muchísimas gracias por estar aquí en este foro bilingüe. Es importante porque podremos saber las posturas de los candidatos para alcalde y concejales de Salinas. Es importante la información para poder tomar decisiones.
Thank you, Adriana. I want to remind folks that this is a bilingual space and you don't need both English and Spanish. You will need a headset if you do not have one. So please, if you don't have a headset, please see the technicians in the back to grab a headset now.
Así es, Pastor Smith. Es importante que si usted no es bilingüe y necesita una interpretación, en la parte de atrás hay unos equipos de interpretación para que usted pueda recibir la información en su idioma.
Briefly, I'd like to review the forum for our format for tonight. Each candidate will have 1 minute to give an opening statement. We will ask the questions that we have developed with input from our community. Each candidate will answer the same question. The audience will not be able to ask questions during the forum. At the end, the candidate will give a formal statement to close out the night.
Así es, Pastor. Cada candidato tendrá 1 minuto que está siendo contabilizado por César para dar su declaración inicial. Pero antes, recordamos que este es un foro bilingüe y si las personas no hablan inglés o español, pueden solicitar su equipo de interpretación. Y hemos desarrollado este formato en inglés y en español para que sea inclusivo y para que sea diverso. Cada candidato responderá a las mismas preguntas. El público no podrá hacer las preguntas durante el foro. Al final, los candidatos darán su última declaración para cerrar la noche. Este foro es una oportunidad para escuchar directamente los candidatos para alcalde y las diferentes carreras de concejales de la ciudad de Salinas sobre sus perspectivas en los diferentes temas. Agradecemos mucho la participación de los candidatos y agradecemos su participación. Vamos a hacer las preguntas en inglés y en español. Cada candidato tiene 1 minuto, como ya les dije, para hacer su declaración inicial. Vamos a comenzar a presentar los candidatos. Para la carrera de alcalde, para Mayor of Salinas, we have Chris Barrera and Ernesto González García. Para la carrera de alcalde de Salinas tenemos a Chris Barrera y Ernesto González García. Para el distrito 1 tenemos el candidato Alex Ayala. For District 1 we have candidate Alex Ayala. For District 3 we have candidates David Maisonneuve, Carrie Swenson and Jesus Valenzuela. Para el distrito 3 tenemos los candidatos David Maisonneuve, Carrie Swenson, Jesus Valenzuela. Para el distrito 4, concejal, tenemos al candidato Orlando Osornio. Para el distrito 6, we have candidates Anthony Rocha, Aurelio Salazar. He'll be coming late. Él llegará un poquito más tarde. Bienvenidos a todos.
At this time, I'd like to introduce or actually review the rules of the forum for our audience and for our candidates. We are here to learn about each candidate, vision and ideals this evening, so we ask that all candidates be respectful when answering questions, and we ask the audience to be respectful as well. I'd like to remind each and last one of us that this is not a debate. Please limit your answers to responding to the questions asked. We do have a timekeeper, Cesar, just sitting in front of us, so please pay attention to the signal when your time is up. If you ignore it, Adriana and I will respectfully interject. Candidates are not allowed to use cell phones during the final panel. Please make sure to silence your cell phones. I would also ask everyone in the audience to also make sure that their cell phones are silenced as well, as to avoid any unnecessary interruptions. With that, let's have an informative evening. Adriana.
Thank you very much, Pastor Smith. Vamos a hacer las preguntas en inglés y en español, como habíamos comisionado, cada candidato tendrá 1 minuto para una declaración para empezar el foro. So this is the question. Esta es la pregunta. Por favor, haga una declaración inicial sobre por qué la gente debería votar por usted.
Please give an opening statement on why people should vote for you.
My name is Chris Pereira and I'm running for Salinas Mayor. A little bit about me, I'm 56 years old, lifelong resident of Salinas. I am currently a real estate agent, serve on numerous boards and commissions, including Measure G and Measure X. I have 2 grown boys and 2 grandkids. I am running for mayor because I love my city. I want to make Salinas a better and safer city. I want to make sure all services are available to all residents and business owners, and I really care. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Anthony Rocha. I am honored to serve on the Salinas City Council as representing the 6th District. I am born and raised in Salinas and I'm a proud product of District 6. I attended John Steinbeck Elementary School, Harding Middle School, and Ellis High School, then received my associate's degree from Harvard Community College and a bachelor's degree in legal studies from the University of California, Santa Cruz. I have served our residents as a school board member for the CSU High School District, and I was a council member for the city of Salinas. The question was an important one. Why should people vote for us? I believe I'm the best candidate for the position because I have a proven track record of delivering real results. During my 10 years as a council member, I was able to secure $20 million from the Toronto Red Lighting Project, $3.3 million from Independence Boulevard complete reconstruction, and $330,000 to completely repair and bring in new playground structures at Steinbeck Neighborhood Park and then at Kidman Neighborhood Park. And there's so much more work to do, and I'm the right candidate to get the job done. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Alex Ayala. I'm 51 years old. I'm the father of 3 boys. I've been living in District 1 for 15 years. I'm an active Little League coach and board member, and an active community member, community volunteer. I'm a former reserve police officer with the San Jose Police Department and Santa Clara County Deputy Sheriff. I am a graduate of San Jose State University with a bachelor's degree in political science. After college, I went to go work into the public sector as a case manager for an elementary school district. I later transitioned from the public sector to the private sector where I became a business owner. I've been a business owner for 22 years in the construction, real estate, and restaurant businesses. With over 30 years of combined private and public sector experience, I believe I'm the right candidate to represent the people of District 1. The concerns in our district are unique, whether it's public safety, infrastructure.
Primeramente quisiera darle las gracias a todas las personas que están aquí con nosotros hoy. Sé que están aquí para tratar de determinar quién van a elegir para alcalde o concejal. And so I would like to thank everybody for those individuals who are here with us today. I think it's important that we're here to determine, based on the information that we gather, who the best person would be for a particular position. And so I know that I've been around, started as came to California when I was about 18 to pick strawberries in the outskirts of town. Started to pick cotton at the age of 6 in Texas, oranges, potatoes. And so we came over and I became an instructional aide, classified teacher, vice principal, and worked at state and federal programs.
Thank you very much.
At the district level.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Orlando Sornio. I've been representing the District 4 for the last 4 years. And I'm also born and raised in East Salinas. One of the things that I feel has made me and this current council so successful is because we know how to work with each other. As somebody that has experience working in the private sector, but also owning my own small business, I definitely know how to problem solve and how to work well with others. We've been able to accomplish improvements to some of our biggest parks. Cesar Chavez Park with over a $2 million investment, sidewalks, some of the sidewalks on Roosevelt, North Madera, Pearl Street, Mariel, and Tapadero. We've also been able to do a lot of street projects such as Hebron, Eucalyptus, Tampico, and Pacheco. And so those are some of the reasons why I make a good candidate, because I get the job done. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
My name is David Masonet, and I am living in Salinas, just like everyone else here. I've lived here 30 years, and I came for work. Originally, I was working for a corporation, and then I moved up here, worked for a corporation for another 5 years, and then went out on my own. So I've lived in both worlds. I've lived in the corporate life, and I've lived in the personal, self-employed area. I know how to set up a budget. I know how to live within a budget. And if you vote for me, I will help the city council stay on task and stay on budget. It's important. How many of you are taxpayers? Like all of us, right? And if you're a taxpayer, you want to know where your money's going. And I think one of the challenges in Salinas is that the communications needs to be more open and more front and center. So if you vote for me, I'm going to help improve those situations.
Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon, buenas tardes, everybody. Jesús Valenzuela, the current council member for District 3. Like David, I myself moved up here for work. I started work here at the United Farm Workers, organizing farm workers to form a union. And for me, one of the most important things that I bring to council is constantly asking folks the question, have you ever felt like you did not belong in your city? And not like, random belong, but like you don't feel safe in the city. That type of belonging is what I bring to the seat, because I myself, now council member, actually became a citizen about 8 or 9 years ago. I was undocumented, I became a citizen, got to vote for the first time, and now what I want is a city where everybody, no matter who you are, feel like you can belong in the city. So we've done a lot of good work, especially around housing with this current council, and I would like to continue that. So, thank you.
I guess they saved the best for last. Hi, my name is Carrie Swenson. I'm running for Salinas City Council District 3. I ran in 2022 against Steve McShane and came very close within 1,000 votes. We're on the ballot 2 years earlier than we should be, so this is a 2-year term. And a little bit about me, I own Sutton Learning Center. I am a part-time adjunct history instructor at Hartnell. I also teach at through Hartnell, the Rising Scholars in the prisons, Salinas Valley State Prison and CTF. I'm very involved in the community. I've been a Steinbeck Rotarian for 15 years. I've been on the board of Meals on Wheels. I'm on the Seeds for STEM. I'm on Measure G, and I'm on the Housing Advisory Committee. So I'm very involved in the community, and elect me because I want to think outside the box to fix our problems. Whenever I hear there's no money, I'll figure out a way to get money to get. There's so much money in Monterey.
Thank you.
We can fix our problems. Thank you.
Salinas is a home to many communities of color. How we work to ensure that their voices are heard and represented in key decisions that impact the city's future, including community development, community services, and OEC.
Salinas es el hogar de muchas comunidades de color, como lo podemos ver. ¿Cómo trabajará usted para garantizar que sus voces sean escuchadas y estén representadas en las decisiones claves que afectan el futuro de la ciudad, incluyendo desarrollo comunitario, servicios comunitarios y la vigilancia policial?
Thank you. That is a great question. First and foremost, we have to acknowledge the disparities that exist in our community if we're going to work towards a plan to addressing them. The UC Berkeley study that was conducted identified the city of Salinas as being one of the most segregated metropolitan areas in the country. That means we have to put together an equity plan led by an equity officer to address these disparities, provide the support for the impacted communities, and also put us on a path to making sure that we're addressing inequities and preventing them from happening in the future. That also means we have to make sure that our community engagement efforts are robust and are centered on listening to the residents most impacted, providing translation services available, and making sure residents feel and are put in a place to where the city government is working for them. So that's what I believe we need to be doing in order to address inequities and make it so that our city is working for all people in addressing, especially issues that have impacted people of color. With respect to community development, that is a really great opportunity to engage communities of color in the land use process to determine the housing needs of our community and make sure that we're addressing the issues of gentrification and displacement as they're happening out now and prevent them from happening in the future. So an equity plan led by an equity officer is the right way to go on this issue, in my opinion. Thank you.
What I would do is continue to work with all residents and especially realizing that there are disparities. Obviously, as a person that is Latino here in Salinas, I think that obviously recognizing that there is a challenge in some of our communities, but also making sure that anybody that would like to meet, anybody that would like to bring up concern, meeting with them and making sure that we have the opportunity to address any needs. So I think access is very important, so just making sure that all folks have access.
Yes, equity is for me one of the most important topics that we can be talking about. Before I was a council member, before I started working in the city of Soledad, I was working with building up communities, and a lot of people will remember the 2014 officer-involved shootings of, I believe it was 5 Latino men in the span of 3 months. And what that did was inspire a conversation around equity. Building up community at that time hosted a week-long training with 50 community members, 50 City of Salinas employees, and we came out with a case study. So I was part of 2 case studies talking about governing for racial equity. And the thing about equity that is so important is that it's not just some fun, cultural, liberal thing. It's about health. If anybody is familiar with the video, I tell 2 zip codes. A zip code can indicate how long you will live more than whether you work out, whether you eat healthy, right? So there are a lot of issues of institutionalized racism that we need to address as a city. And I believe that recently working with the city of Soledad, now I understand the ins and outs of the city. So I bring in that perspective of a community organizer as well as, what it takes to administer a city. And most importantly, and I know since all that people here, they won't let me lie, I center community voice. That's important.
Thank you.
I'll put it in perspective of being an educator and working with students, and we have an IEP or 504, and I've had other students go, that's not fair. Why does that kid get to have extra time on his test? Why does he get? Because it's equity. Because this student has dyslexia. Because this student needs extra time. So that's what equity is. It's not giving someone an unfair advantage over another. It's making the playing field even for everybody. And that's what I would strive for as a city council member. And the other area I'd like to see develop is I'd like to see some more Latina women up here running. I have some friends who want to run. Where are they? Where are the women? We need to have some equity for our women. Women need, out of 5 seats, about 12 candidates, only 3 women running. Where's the equity for women? Why don't women feel like they can run? Why don't Latino women feel like they can run? Or African American or Asian? So that's an area I'd like to address. I'd like to address that through you have to meet people where they are and ask them what they need. I can't assume what they need. I need to hear it. So I'd have town hall meetings, meet people where they're at, so they're comfortable, so they feel like their voice is heard. And then I'm a doer. I don't want to just hear someone's voice. I want to do some action to get done whatever it is that they need to get done. Thank you.
Besides being a real estate agent, I'm also the president of a civil rights organization, and we work on a lot of these issues. And it's our job to address situations and get results. There's always been this issue here in Salinas of racism. And as mayor, I will do my best to address this issue as far as equity goes and really listening to people and their needs. I'm committed to doing town hall events, being available to the community. And I'm not talking about asking you to come to me, I'm going to the neighborhoods. There are 6 districts, 12 months. Each district will get 2 town hall meetings every single year. And as your mayor, I will make it a point to be a positive influence as far as education goes, to be a role model for our kids as mayor. Thank you.
I guess for me, more important is for us to look at what laws already exist in terms of the federal and state level, because there are already many laws that exist. And part of the problem is that the implementation piece of it is not happening. And so if you look at those particular pieces, then I would go and ask, in combination with the council, to bring forward what administrative regulations are and what policies the city has and are they being implemented now. Because that would be one of the big pieces, first of all. And so I've always worked with all individuals as a principal, as a teacher, and I've always respected and tried and treated every individual at my level. And I didn't think of people whether lower or higher than me. So that I've always established for more than 30 years. I think in terms of the process of community service, when I was a board member, I brought forth an idea to set up a policy so that the students at the high school level would be able to have community service requirements because other places were doing it. So we implemented and brought forth a policy for the high schools to have community service.
Thank you, sir. Your time is up.
This is an amazingly tough question to answer. Because I personally believe that if somebody would come to me and ask, regardless of their color, I want to listen. I'm going to be a representative of the people. And because of that, I don't look at people's color. I look at people's intentions, what people's personalities are, and what they're looking for. So it's hard for me to answer a question about race when I don't see her. For me personally, I don't see race. I treat people equally. We're all, like I asked before, we're all taxpayers. Okay, what does that do? Well, that levels the playing field. Okay, whether it's whether you're paying taxes on your property or you're paying sales tax, you're still a taxpayer. And because of that, I want to be able to talk to people and listen to people's challenges and their problems and meet them where they're at, regardless of their color. And I'm probably a little naive that way, but that's the way I am. I haven't experienced racism, because I'm white, obviously, but I also don't treat people with racism. So.
A sad reality to any growing city or community is that you get homelessness. Economic growth creates homelessness. If we don't have the best interests of the people at heart, we're going to end up with a larger homeless population. And unfortunately, it affects people of color disproportionately higher rates than other people. In terms of the police department, at all levels of hiring and more importantly promotion, we need to have civilian oversight in the police department. Promotions are very important. As we get closer to the city council, we have committees and commissions. We need to make sure that we put the proper people there that represent a cross-section of the community that we're supposed to serve. Instead of using these commissions for our own political gain, let's put members of the community out there.
Salinas aprobó recientemente medidas de estabilización de renta. ¿Qué medidas adicionales tomarán para garantizar que estas medidas se apliquen efectivamente y cómo aumentará la asequibilidad de la vivienda para los residentes afroamericanos y latinos?
Salinas recently passed rent stabilization measures. What additional steps will you take to ensure that these measures are effectively enforced? And how will you increase housing affordability for Black and brown residents?
Obviously, as one of the council members that supported this rent stabilization, for us, it's going to be important to making sure that we have it appropriately funded. Obviously, we can pass the ordinance and say that we're going to be implementing it, but without the proper funding and the support, that there's no way it can be successful. So I'm committed to making sure that I work well with the other council members and mayor to make sure that there's enough funding to have this successful. So that's the first thing. The second thing is our council currently has invested lots of money in affordable housing. Not only did we allocate money from the ARPA funds that was to be used for affordable housing, seed money, but we also have put money into a local housing trust fund. So those monies will be able to be used for affordable housing, to continue the production of affordable housing, but also I think working with the permit department and making sure that we're streamlining these processes to be more friendly with developers is going to ensure that we are successful at this.
Similarly, I was on the city council when the rent stabilization ordinance was approved. And to Councilmember Osornio's point, we do have to put in the infrastructure to make sure that it is implemented. Many of us are renters. I grew up as a renter. My mom, single mom before, struggle to pay the rent sometimes, and that's a reality that many of us face. And rental stabilization is a good step forward, but it cannot be the only one. So, one thing that we want to implement is a task force, right? Put in a special team within every department that can help us tackle the situation. To give you an example, the council previously passed a rental registry, but without enough staff to make sure that renters are, that the rents are being registered, it's hard to enforce. And that's one of the things that we got to do is make sure that we have enough staff to enforce. We also have to continue development. There is going to be a lot of construction on the north side, which is going to help. But we also have to make sure that developers, feel comfortable as well. And I do want to dispel that myth that rent stabilization ordinances hurt development, that people do not want to develop if there are these types of ordinances in place. And lastly, we have some Prop 33. Our current ordinance only covers 1965.
Rental stabilization. So city council can decide to do rental stabilization, but the key is hiring city employees. There were 88 vacancies. You can't do rental stabilization with that many vacancies. We need to hire more employees. We need to make Salinas a nice destination for employment. We need to get this done because more than half of Salinas are renters. I'm a renter. I'm also a real estate agent, so I have the ability to hear owners and property managers talking about upping people's rents. And before it was 10% a year. Now, thank goodness for our current city council, which is doing a great job, it's down to 2.75. And I asked, you're going to raise the rents again? And they go, yes. Why? Because that's the law. We can do 10%, even for people on fixed incomes, seniors, veterans, and it's just wrong. So I applaud the current city council, and as your mayor, I'd be in favor of rental stabilization. Thank you.
This is such an important question. As the council member that introduced the request for rent stabilization with council member Gonzalez as my co-sponsor, I strongly support that, and I will do whatever I can in my capacity as a council member to ensure that that program is fully funded as part of the city, so the laws on the books are able to be applied and protecting the families that really need this the most. What's really important about this question is that we have a unique opportunity coming to our city with the future growth area. That is 10,000 homes that are coming to our city, and we have to make sure that our residents and our Black and brown residents are able to have access to that housing. And what we need to do is make sure that our Black and brown residents know how to apply to live in these developments, but also that we're having workshops so our Black and brown residents know what the requirements are to qualify for a loan. And the reason that's important is because generational wealth is something that has been historically lacking in Black and brown communities due to a history of redlining and a history of discrimination in the housing market. So we have to be very intentional in our efforts to make sure that Black and brown families have the tools they need to be able to enter the housing market and have their first home, and make sure that we're putting the tools in place so that our Salinas residents are able to benefit from the housing growth that will come to our city. Thank you.
I do support rent stabilization, rent control. because it's important for me. I've heard as an administrator, as a teacher, many times where parents would come and they would be crying because they were told that their rent was going to move from $1,500 to $3,000, and if they paid, they had to leave. And so rents here are very, very expensive, even people that are renting rooms. So that's one of the big pieces. As far as the 10,000 or 4,000 houses that are going to be built, I don't know. I don't necessarily believe that the people or most people that live here in Salinas are going to be able to afford them, because we know that houses are going easily over $750,000, $800,000. So when those houses are built, the people that are going to come and buy them are those people that live in San Jose, that live somewhere else, because if they're paying $2 million for a house down there, guess what? $1 million home over here, and if they work like 2 days, 3 days out of the home, that's a huge savings. So I don't know about what affordable housing means nowadays, because people are moving, they're moving down South County and other areas.
Yeah, rent stabilization is a really important question. I am a renter. I rent on Riker. I started renting in 2020. My rent has gone up $600 a month since then, because my landlord can raise it 10% every year. And he can. Plus he takes the fee of the water, sewage, and garbage and puts that as a separate fee. So really it's gone up more than that. He can raise it anytime he wants. So yes, we have to remember the rent stabilization is, I believe, roughly around 19% of the renters. So it's not a huge portion of our renters. But out on the campaign trail, both in 2022 and now in 2024, I'm hearing stories. A lady, she's living in Over Oak Clay Street. She's spending almost $3,000 a month on a one bedroom, and now she can't go the Y. She's on a fixed income. I mean, if we don't do something with rent stabilization and more affordable housing, we are going to see more homeless. So hearing what the council members say, Rocha and Arsodio, we need to make sure it's fully funded, that we have people in there watching and making sure that people are being protected, and then we need more housing. And I can tell you, being on the Housing Advisory Committee for the county, we're a long way from affordable housing, so we have to do something for that rent stabilization, because new housing it's on the horizon, but it's still going to be a while. And I know
the people affected by the no rent stabilization were the very same people that at one point in history were considered essential workers. That's no longer the case. We need to build homes, yes, but we also need to add some protections to those homes. We need to create pathways to home ownership. Make sure that people could qualify or have the option to purchase a home from these developers if they're first-time home buyers, or if they need down payment assistance. We need to create those programs. I don't want to see 14,000 homes being built on Miranda and an investor coming in buying 5,000, 6,000 and then controlling the rents. When we talk about rents, there's another issue that we have to consider, and those are the HOA fees. If you don't push somebody out on their rent, you could easily push them out on the HOA fees. HOA fees could go from $200 to $900 a month. We have to be very careful. If the candidates are not voted, if the correct candidates are not voted in this election, rent stabilization might go away. We have to be very conscious of that. So it's very important that we get the vote out and we have everybody out there voting. Thank you.
I'm not going to have the most popular viewpoint here. Rent stabilization is currently the law of the land. City Council approved it. Therefore, if I were elected, when I'm elected, I will follow the law. Having said that, rent stabilization is a mandate. We have so many problems with supply and demand. And like was being said, how do we keep other people from outside the area buying our new homes and bringing up the rents and bringing up the cost of housing? Well, there's a way of doing that. It's called inclusionary housing. It's the way that the county or the city can put deed restrictions on homes that are currently in the process of being built. Now, a deed restriction limits what you can do to the property. So if somebody were to buy an inclusionary house, I'm just throwing numbers out there, but let's say a normal house costs $700,000, they can buy the house for $300,000 based on their income. Okay? So when that happens, they buy it at that price, but when they went to sell it within 30 years, prior to 30 years, they wouldn't be able to sell it for what the market bears. They'd only be able to sell it for what the county says they can sell it for. So when you purchase a home as inclusionary, it's a home. It's not an investment, it's your home. And that's great, and that's good. So that's one way of dealing with it. Again, it's supply and demand. We have a large supply. My wife and I look at our house, and we just have a humble 1,200 square foot house. We couldn't afford to buy it.
If elected, what comprehensive strategies will you advance in your role to address issues of violence while avoiding racial profiling and over-policing the Black and brown youth and residents?
Si es elegido, ¿qué estrategias integrales promoverá en su cargo para abordar los problemas de violencia y al mismo tiempo evitar la discriminación racial y la vigilancia policial excesiva de los jóvenes y residentes afroamericanos y latinos?
Well, I do think as far as policing, we do need more police. We look at the numbers that we have, we're about 60, 70 below. So why can't we look into the community and bring in more community police who are within that community, who have ties to that community, so people feel more, comfortable. I mean, I know sometimes it feels like the police, even for me, I don't want to interact with them. It's negative. Well, it should be negative. It should be a positive interaction. I'd like to see more police in the neighborhood. I'd like to see police have more support, so you have community advocates in the communities working with the police who know how to deal with problems. I know when we had that shooting of I think it was in Ponro, where a young man didn't speak Spanish or English and no one was able to communicate with him. And that was part of the problem. So we got to make sure that people in the community are familiar with the police, know the police, and have community advocates who are in there for them to help them out. The police need help. I saw the police working with a drunk guy in downtown, kind of off downtown by Salinas High, and I thought, we just need some other, maybe this is the best use of time, we have some other social workers or other people in there that can deal with that kind of issue. The police can do their job with the more dangerous things.
Thank you.
Police is a tough thing. We need more police. I don't think there's anybody that doesn't agree with that. But at the same time, we outnumber the police a gazillion to one. We need to, I personally think we need to start revitalizing our neighborhood watch programs. We need to start getting to be knowing our neighbors, being neighborly and neighbors to each other, building community by connecting our neighborhoods, and eventually connecting the whole city. What would it look like if the city of Salinas was full of friends and neighbors? What would it look like? It would look like a city of peace. So I do recognize that we need police, and it's definitely something we need to consider. However, I do believe that the citizens of Salinas can do a much better job of being neighborly and watching out for each other. Thank you.
I look at this as really like a multi-pronged approach because for us, our police department is probably one of the biggest ways that we can help in addressing the issue of neighborhoods feeling unsafe. But I think that also working with some of the nonprofit organizations to make sure that we're preventing a lot of this stuff from happening, I think is going to be how we can work together with the police department, with city officials, and with nonprofit organizations to really make sure that we have a safer city. The police officers in Salinas do a fantastic job whenever they're able to show up in to some calls. What we need to do is we need to make sure that we're recruiting and retaining more police officers. so that folks can go out to calls when our community is calling. But again, I think that there's a lot of different things that we need to do. We need to work collaboratively together. So it'd be city officials, nonprofit organizations, and the police department to be able to do, like a community policing model. So that's my thoughts.
So I've been the president of a civil rights organization for about 10 years, and I also serve on the interview panels for the Salinas Police Department. Not all the time, but sometimes. And I believe that we need to continue to hire locally. So money is not the number one issue regarding officers. Right now, if an officer does a lateral move, they get a bonus. If for all new officers, they too get a bonus. I'm always recruiting for our police officers, and I think that we need to continue the community policing program, and we need to hit it right on our next chief. Community policing, that means getting off the car and mingling with the community and getting that personal relationship. Right now we're at about 130 officers. We need to hire more officers. We need to hire social workers and mental health workers as well. Bring back the neighborhood watch programs. And as your mayor, I will be very involved in all neighborhood watch meetings. And also, I'm committed on all town hall meetings. So when we have a town hall meeting, I will be bringing officers to those town hall meetings so we can all have a conversation and engage. Thank you.
It's important that we develop a comprehensive approach to public safety that centers prevention, intervention, and public safety response. And when we talk about prevention, we really have to mean it. And we have to put significant funding from the city to programs that not only reduce violence, but also create safe, healthy, and thriving neighborhoods. During my time with the City Council, I partnered with our colleagues to introduce the Prevention Wellness Grant Program, and we have increased, we made it from a pilot program to an actual program, and we've allocated over $600,000 to prevention grants in our city that help nonprofits who are doing important work of prevention and intervention. I will also say that with respect to racial profiling, it is an important question to ask, and we have to look at the policies we have in place to make sure that we are protecting the civil liberties of people while also supporting public safety. And we do have to ask pertinent questions related to trends that are identified within the data collected from various technology that is used, and engage in a collaborative manner with our police department to prevent racial profiling, to prevent issues that historically have come up. And we can do it with the police chief, and we put forward a privacy ordinance that works to identify these things and prevent them from happening with technology used in the city. So it can be a collaborative approach. It's one that brings the community together, protects civil liberties, and supports public safety.
Violence and crime are part of any modern society. There's going to be issues, we know that. There's going to be arrests, there's going to be people that are upset at law enforcement. Law enforcement is the only agency that takes people into custody. We need to put the right people in place, and that's why it's important for me to have a civilian overview board to make sure that anybody that gets promoted deserves that promotion, anybody that gets hired. We need to also make it mandatory that officers that are working patrol take the proper training to deal with the issues that faces our community, whether it's cultural, it's mental illness. We need to arm those officers with those trainings. We also need to hire the right chief. The chief is crucial because the officers are looking up the hierarchy for guidance. Community policing is very important because it builds a sense of trust between the community and the police, the people they're supposed to be protecting. It helps with the youth and kids that are growing up in our neighborhoods. And we need to, through our actions, make it known that the police officers are out there to help, not to arrest anybody. Arrest should be the last resort, but just make it known that...
Thank you. Starting with violence, there's a very famous quote by Father Boyle who says, "Nothing stops a bullet like a job." Right? And for me, violence is an issue, but it's also a symptom of a wider issue. Right? communities that have everything that they need do not commit violence, they do not commit crimes. And so I am a big believer in the peer model, prevention, intervention, enforcement, reentry, with the heaviest emphasis being on prevention. And what prevention looks like, it's a multi-tiered approach that has to do with after-school programs for youth, so that they have something to do. A lot of the folks that I know that got involved into gangs said there was nothing else to do, right? You know, there were smart kids that would finish their homework early and they would disrupt the class, get suspended for a few days, and all of a sudden, all were targets for recruitment. And by giving them something to do, that prevents them, right? That prevents them from committing crimes. The other component, of course, is changing the policies and procedures within our police department, which started happening 10 years ago. With the former chief Frederick, she actually changed a lot of the rules where before, if you had smoked marijuana at any point of your life, you could not be a police officer. If you had a cousin or family member 3 times removed who was a gang member, you could never become a police officer. And that's changed, and what we see now, I did my first ride-along with a police officer who was born and raised here, and he understands the community.
Thank you very much.
As far as racial profiling, racism, I guess I've experienced most of my life. But I'm just going to tell you a little story. About 35 years ago or so, I was driving up on Allison Street on my lowrider with chrome steering wheel, diamond tug, and a police officer said, I wasn't breaking any law. They asked for a driver's license and all that. I gave it to them. And he said, where do you work? And I said, I work at Fremont Elementary School. And he says, are you a custodian? And I said, no, I'm a teacher. And so not only the stop, he said, oh, the reason I stopped you because the rear tire was wobbly. I wanted to make sure for your safety. You know, so anyways, that's a little experience. And as far as ideas in terms, I'm not going to go second guess the mayor and the police officer, the police chief. I'm sure we're going to do our homework in terms of that. But at the same time, I think there's two things that we need to do. One is we have institutionalized hiring practices. And we need to change those hiring practices so that people can apply. The other is that we could get video cameras to at least every 3 or 4 houses across the city so they will be
Thank you, Mr. Garcia.
to follow somebody and skill somebody.
Dadas las desigualdades raciales que enfrentan los residentes afroamericanos y latinos en materia de salud, educación, economía, fuerza laboral y vivienda, ¿cuáles son sus planes o soluciones para abordar las desigualdades raciales? ¿Qué políticas o programas específicos promoverán?
Given the racial inequities that Black and brown residents are facing in health, education, economy, workforce, and housing, what are your plans for solutions for addressing the racial inequities? What specific roles or policies will you advocate for?
There's a lot there in 90 minutes to say. First of all, as an educator, given city council, I would like to be able to get all the different districts together and start working out a solution for the poor academic results of our students. I would encourage everyone here to get on this website called Niche, NICHE.com, and you can see the score of your school in their reading when they take the SBAC, 3rd grade through, I think it's 11th grade. You can see their 12th, 10th grade. You can see their SBAC scores. You can see math in the Salinas High School District, the highest, I think it's right around 20% of students are at proficient math. So what I want as an educator, what I want to see is that we start putting more dollars and money into K-3 and make sure our students, that will help a lot with equity. If all of our kids are coming out of 3rd grade able to read at grade level, have their math skills at grade level, so they go into 4th grade and they're on an equal playing field. Because right now they're not. Right now our kids are hurting. They are not. I teach at Hartnell. I teach students who cannot write. Their writing level is probably about 5th grade, 6th grade. So as a history teacher, I have to teach them how to write.
As far as the inequity in education and housing, I think there's different components that I would look at. One deals with tiny homes for people who are homeless. I think that people should, a great number of individuals are considered homeless if they rent from another person and if they're not in the lease, that should continue. As far as, we talked a little bit about affordable housing and we said, well, what does that really mean? Is affordable housing really real here? Because people are moving out, they're moving south, they become bedroom communities. So I think that we need to seriously look at that and figure out what we need to do because, I mean, as one of my sons-in-law says, sometimes people overpromise and underdeliver. And I don't like to overpromise because sometimes it just doesn't happen. As far as the education, we've been talking about education forever and a day. 40 years ago, we're talking about the same things because the systems don't change. We keep the same systems over and over and over again. And we're going to be talking about the same things 40 years from now because we need to change the systems. And people at the top are making laws that really sometimes don't, for the most part, don't know what it is. Thank you.
I believe addressing inequities in our city, especially as it relates to communities of color, requires us to start with hiring an equity officer, conducting an equity audit of our city to look at how our policies and procedures are either upholding structures that perpetuate inequities or putting us on a path to continue those inequities. So we have to conduct an equity audit to see where we're at. And from that point, then we conduct, or we create equity plan to guide our work as a city moving forward to ensure that we are governing in an equitable manner. And really what's important is to establish equity as a fundamental component of our governance philosophy. It cannot be a one-off policy. It has to be woven into all of our policies and all of our work. This city council has taken on specific policies with an equity framework that will pay off significantly for our community. One of them is we are now changing the way we repair roads. So our pavement policy will now include 80% of the pavement condition index will be pavement condition, 20% will be social factors, which include poverty, disadvantaged communities, whether or not they have access for people with disabilities, and whether or not there's sufficient tree canopy. That's important because we know Black and brown communities are most impacted by lack of investment, and therefore they have to be prioritized in how we repair roads to ensure we're not continuing this cycle of inequity in our city. And that's just the beginning. More can be accomplished in
Housing is the foundation to any family. If you have nowhere to sleep, everything else becomes secondary. Families struggle to stay together without proper housing. And the children, unfortunately, the children affected by the lack of proper housing cannot perform at the same academic levels as their peers. We need to protect and create current policies for our renters and our labor force. We also need to diversify our workforce. Are we too reliant on one industry here in Salinas that nobody else wants other businesses to open up in Salinas? We need to bring other industries to Salinas. That way we give workers not only an option to earn more money, but bargaining and negotiating power when going back to, let's say, the fields, for example. If we have other industries, the other industry, let's take Amazon, for example, is paying $22 an hour and the field needs people. Well, hey, they're paying me $22 over here. What can you do? Thank you.
This is not a city issue. It's a county issue, a state issue, maybe even a neighborhood issue. But I'm not seeing it as a city issue. The parts that the city can control is the housing, okay, the rent control, which again I'm not in favor of, but it's there. That's how we help the families. That's how we help the kids. if the parents can be parents, right, because they're making a little more money or they're not putting out as much money, that's going to be the biggest indicator, that's going to be the biggest help for the students. A solid family, not a family that has to have dad working 3 jobs and mom working 2, and the kids are out doing whatever the kids do. That's not how we're going to improve this situation. So I really believe that the cost of living in this county, in the city, in the state is astronomical. And I'm not sure there's a whole lot we can do other than help people by training them, teaching them how to live on a budget, helping them to become all that they can be with what they have, and possibly even opening other doors. Thank you.
That's a loaded question. So when people say that it's not a city issue, as your mayor, I will make it a mayor's issue. It's our job to be involved. It's our job to be part of the reading program. Every time I hear that kids are entering hard knock college and cannot read, I take great offense to that. Reading needs to be learned by the 3rd grade or they will forever be behind, usually. I would love to start a STEM citywide program. We need to invest in our future at the end of the day, and I will be a positive role model at our school district meetings to keep on advocating for this. Pesticide reform, I will be a huge advocate for that as your mayor. And so I also used to serve on the Monterey County Civil Rights Board. I always wondered how come Salinas doesn't have a Salinas City Civil Rights Board. So I will be advocating for that as well. With a board with some key. And housing, our kids can't focus if they're not getting a good night's sleep. So we need to make sure that all of us are on board for that. And as far as bringing good jobs to the city, we need to do our best to advocate for companies like Google, companies like Intuit. Reach out to them and serve our community with good paying jobs, not $18 and $20 jobs like Amazon. Thank you.
So what we need to do is we need to have a DEI department. So making sure that we have a specific department that is just looking at different types of policies and bringing us information. I think that that's going to be very important at the city. But I also agree with Councilmember Rocha, and we need to really do an assessment and find out what policies we have at the city or how we can improve our hiring, and obviously from the community standpoint, and I say having great relationships with the community will always make sure that we are keeping track of the needs of our community, but also making sure, that you elect the right officials and making sure that these are things that we prioritize. So those are the ways that I think that the city of Salinas can improve.
At the core of my beliefs is, for me, government is there to protect the most vulnerable populations. And historically speaking, in America, those have been the Black, brown, indigenous populations. And as a city, I think we need to do that approach. We need to implement what, in the case studies that we've written, is called a RAIA, Racial Equity Impact Assessment. That no matter what policy we implement, we ask ourselves, what unintentional racial equity consequences will this have? And for me, that's one of the things that applies to housing, but it applies for our investment and our partnerships with education and with apprenticeships. I don't know how many of y'all are first generation college students, but my mom always said, hey, go to university. I'm like, how long? I don't know, we'll figure it out. Go to university, go get an apprenticeship, that'll fix everything. And for communities of color that don't have generational wealth, what tends to happen is that, yes, we are better off with that trade, with that education, but we are often the ones that have to go back and support our families, right? Our parents and grandparents that did not have that level. And so we do need to center racial equity practices. And that includes also reaching out to the community members. We are at a time where we don't need any more saviors. None of us up here are going to save you. We can create a space for you to organize and to pressure us. Thank you.
What role do you see the city of Salinas playing in promoting public health and wellness for Black and brown communities, especially with the agricultural industry, which is at the heart of the city's economy?
¿Qué papel cree usted que desempeña la ciudad de Salinas en la promoción de la salud pública y el bienestar de las comunidades afroamericanas y latinas, especialmente con la industria agrícola como núcleo de la economía de la ciudad?
Currently, I sit on a joint ad hoc committee that has the county supervisors and the city of Salinas. So I think one of the things that we can do is make sure that we have either a committee or a commission where we can have folks from the agricultural community. We can have folks from either a community-based organization, the city of Salinas, and then the health department. I think that being able to have a committee where folks are able to share information, get information from the community, would increase the opportunities that we have to improve the quality of life for the residents of Salinas.
Well, I think that the city is very important. I mean, I was out there picking strawberries in River Road when I was about 18 or 19 and 20. And the sun would get really hot, but we'd still have to be picking the strawberries. We would want to wait till it would be around 1 o'clock, 12:30, 1 o'clock, because that's when the wind would start coming in and the breeze would help a little bit. But that's one of the pieces that I think is important, especially for the people, more important for the people that work out in agriculture. You can see them out there working even if it's a holiday or not. And so I believe that we need to look at the systems that are in place. We need to look at what laws exist. And then again, it goes back to implementation. And if you can have all the best ideas, best solutions possible, but if you don't get to the implementation piece, then it's not going to happen. It's just like when I was talking about the educational field when I started 4 years ago, working with kindergarten, first graders, fourth graders. You know, we're talking about the same issues from 40 and product. People were talking about the same issues, but I think it's all about implementation. And if you don't get to that point, then it's just ideas and policies and laws and regulations.
Thank you for the question. It's one that hasn't been asked before, and I think it's an issue. One, we don't have enough doctors. We don't have enough, and we're losing doctors. I know, I just had my doctor retired. I had a new doctor. It took me months, and she's only available on Fridays and half-day Wednesday. So we need to work on, as a city, I don't know how, but maybe put a task force and look at this. How can we get more doctors here? Our own residents looking into, make sure we can get into medical programs, get more doctors. As far as ag and health, do they pay health insurance? Is it something that, you know, how can we, you know, communicate with the ag that when you, that's why I'm all for union jobs, because union jobs provide health care. You provide health care, it takes it out of taxpayer dollars, right? Because if you have public health, then it's with taxpayer dollars, so we have to figure out, you know, everyone deserves to have good health care, and we all benefit when everyone has good health care. You know, I know for me, being a part-time adjunct instructor at Hartnell, finally got health insurance, and that was a real blessing to finally get that. Otherwise, I was paying $600 a month. I may not live in my apartment paying that. So, you know, it's a big issue, and we need to look into it and find out a way to get people health care and more doctors.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think the city of Salinas should absolutely take an active role in issues of public health for our Black and brown community, but also for our LGBTQ plus community and for reproductive freedom. So the city of Salinas can partner with their state and federal agencies to advance public health initiatives, but also what they can do is work with our residents to elevate the concerns we're hearing in the community. One of the things our city council did is we sent a letter of support working with Safe Ag Safe Schools for a state assembly bill that would create an environmental justice and Advisory Committee within the Department of Pesticide Regulation because we know that pesticides disproportionately harm Black and brown communities, and we want to make sure that we were using our voice as city government to address that issue. I would absolutely support us investing in a Black Health Matters Day for the city of Salinas. I know the city of Santa Cruz does it. I would love to see that here. The city of Salinas also sent a letter of support and urging our state and federal partners to invest in a robust public education campaign to increase awareness about the MPX virus and increase vaccines for protection against MPX that disproportionately impacted the LGBTQ plus community. And we also sent a letter of support for reproductive freedom and support of Roe v. Wade. So we should take an active role in public health issues in our community to make sure that we're addressing these inequities. Thank you.
District 1 is home to the largest field worker population. It is the highest district with the highest number of migrant field workers. The people I talk to tell me every day that they are worried about the pesticides that they're bringing home on their clothing, putting in their car. We need to support agriculture. Agriculture in Salinas is very important. We know that. It provides a lot of jobs. We need to support agriculture. But we also need to support the population. I believe if we could test not only the children or the field workers, but test everybody on a regular basis to see if there's anything out there that comes in the atmosphere. We need to act on those regulations. I know that there's regulations in place, but we need to be a little more strict with those. You know, the people that I talk to, they, out of fear, they tell me that they don't want to say anything because they're in fear of being fired. And it's interesting that the slate of candidates that were backed by over $1 million of agricultural money, not one of them showed up. Thank you.
Wow, that was a zinger. You know, health insurance is expensive. I've been self-employed for 22 years and had up until recently, since I just turned 65, I had to pay for my own health insurance. I was paying, gosh, $1,000 a month? Crazy. And so I understand this problem. Right? You're talking about health insurance for everybody. So this is a union hall. You guys, those of you who attend here, don't you get medical benefits? I mean, I'm just speaking because I don't know. I know that back in 1980, when I worked for the Retail Clerks Union, I had medical benefits through my union. It was kind of one of those things they said, well, it was really the employers that were paying it, but it was the union that oversaw it. So I'm a little confused as to why the city needs to step in when there are already avenues out there. Now, having said that, I don't want us to be flippant about things or ignoring things. For example, Chinatown, we have a homeless population that is living on drugs. It's a bad health thing. They're not clean. It's a bad health thing. We should be able to step up and help.
Salinas is known as the cellar bowl of the world, right? They make 4 to 5 billion a year. They do not take care of their farm workers. They do not take care of the residents. They can't even alert us when spring's happening. Yes, same old, same old, same old. Nothing ever changes. It's time that things change. There is a group called SAS, also Future Leaders of Change, that are addressing the pesticide issue. As your mayor, I will be a huge advocate for the pesticide issue. It affects us all. It's not just a black or brown issue. It's everybody that lives in Salinas and Monterey County. It's quality of life. And one thing that I'm very proud of is I'm proud to be endorsed by the UFW. And so that's saying a lot. And so as your mayor, I will be strongly involved. Thank you.
So I want everybody to kind of imagine this situation, right? You get home from work, for whatever reason you're inspired to go out for a job, right? But it's getting a little bit dark. You get outside, what are the factors that are going to have you decide whether or not you go for that run, right? Has the city installed enough lights? has the city been upkeeping our sidewalks? Has the city made you feel like you are safe in your community? If you go outside after a long day, work to jog, play, or just hang out with family members, because honestly, just hanging out with that is a part of public health as well. And these are lessons that I learned. One, has been how I've been organizer with the Monterey Central Labor Council, and also working with building county communities. That cities could do a lot on public health. The city of Salinas, a number of years ago, passed a health and health policy, right? So that no matter what they do, they take a person that needs health into account. And once again, I will reference that Tele2 zip code. Check it out on YouTube, because a school, the fact that a school is built surrounded by fields where they apply a lot of pesticides, that's not an accident, right? Where they put a waste transfer station on West Market, that is not an accident. And so those are the types of things that we have to continue to look for, is continue to advocate for your health. And just like Chris Barrera, I work and was also endorsed by the NHBC.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Candidates will have 1 minute to do closing statements. And I want to remind everyone to post through social media and text 3 and remind them to vote. So we need to vote, our voice is important, we need to vote. So now we start with the closing statements. Vamos a comenzar con los argumentos finales de cada candidato. Vamos a comenzar.
Well, thank you so much to everyone who spent your evening here with us talking about the issues. It's critical to have this engagement. It's such an important election. This election will determine the future of our city and what kind of city government we want to have working for the people. I believe in having a city hall that works for our residents and champions the needs of our community. I am proud to be endorsed by the Monterey Central Labor Council, as well as many unions that are representing hardworking people in our city, because that's what we are, a hardworking city. I have the experience, the courage, the compassion, and commitment to always stand up and champion the needs of our community. And I want to continue working hard for you to deliver real results for our community. My name is Anthony Rocha, and I humbly ask for your vote, because together we can ensure we have a city that uplifts every single neighborhood and every single person. Thank you so much.
So the truth is, we're at a crossroads right now. Either we can keep on moving forward, keep the momentum going, or we can take a couple of decades backwards. I want to keep the momentum going forward. I want to clean up our city, invest in neighborhoods, fix our streets and potholes, and improve the quality of life for everybody. I am proud to be endorsed by many unions, SCIU, the CLC, building trades, the New Progressives, have a lot of support. We have not talked about the prostitution issue. We haven't talked about a lot of issues here in Salinas, but I want to be your mayor and work for you. Please vote Chris Barrera for mayor. Thank you.
As far as the resume goes, mine's pretty weak. I've been a neighbor, I've been a citizen, I've been a taxpayer, I've worked for a union, I've worked for a corporation, and I've worked on my own. That helps me know what it's like to live in Salinas. I think that we need to be a healthy community, and that starts with a healthy city. And I'm not talking about us, I'm talking about the bureaucracy. It needs to be healthy. We need to be taking care of our streets and sidewalks. We need to be taking care of the safety issues and the police. And we need to be taking care of the homeless, who are also the unspoken people that aren't here tonight. We need to take care of the city before we can take care of us.
Muchísimas gracias de nuevo. Gracias por estar aquí. And then just briefly, couple of the other persons that are running for mayor have raised over one over $130,000, another at least $60,000. Myself, I'm spending under $2,000 of my own money because I believe in three different things that nobody's advocating for. One is campaign finance reform, the other is term limits, and then I'd like to pass some type of law or policy that says that the signage out there should be less than 32 square feet, because for 3 months every 2 years we see all the signage out there that just police our community. So, we can talk about all the other issues, it's just how we get there. And for those that know me or have met me before, just ask around. I've been a teacher for a long time, vice principal and principal, and I've
Muchas
always
gracias.
met everyone. Have a great night.
Gracias.
Yeah, thank you everybody for coming out. This is a really great opportunity just to be able to talk about some of the goals that we have. As a council member, I did nothing like it in the past. I wasn't an elected official. I didn't sit on any boards. But one of the things that has always been clear to me is that community will always come first. Community always has to come first. The decisions that we make, whether it's a big decision or a small one, an expensive one or one that's not as expensive, we always have to have community at the root of every single decision that we make. I've been doing that for the last 4 years. When it comes to sidewalks, streets, parks and recreation, me and the rest of the council has really prioritized neighborhoods. You're talking about infrastructure that has been deteriorated for years. You're talking about recreation centers like the Hebron Heights Recreation Center, Cesar Chavez Park, Gloucester Park. A lot of these different projects we've been able to get done, and we need to continue the work. I humbly ask for your support and your vote this November.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, just like I said, everybody, for being here tonight. I've said it before, but I'll say it again. I do believe that the role of the city is to center the voice and power of residents and to look out for the most vulnerable populations. That is a belief that I carry now as your current council member, and it's something that we've executed on. I mean, the past 4 months, we've done amazing things, man. We've passed rent stabilization, approved more development on the north end of town. And that's just a start, right? We are creating a Salinas where more than ever people feel like they belong and like they have a voice in the city. And we're not going to go back. We're not going to go back to Salinas where, we felt embarrassed or scared to go speak at public comment, where community members could not go over there and speak Spanish or this is our city, and we are going to continue building this momentum. So thank you so much. We'll focus on the district.
Thank you.
The residents of District 1 deserve a candidate that's going to fight for the people. Not a candidate that's indebted to special interests. I am Alex Ayala. I am not the candidate that took $127,000 from special interests, from those very same interests that fought against rent stabilization, from the very same interests that have kept wages low for many, many years. I'm Alex Ayala, and you guys can find me on my website, votealexayala.com. Thank you.
Hi, thank you everyone for coming out, and our moderators for doing a great job. It's great to get some different questions than we had before, so I appreciate that. I'm running for District 3. I ran in 2022, and boy, I was green back then, and one thing I learned, this is not about me, this is about the residents. This is about District 3 residents. It's what you need, what you want, and I can be your voice there in District 3. So, and then together, why I think I would be a great council member for District 3 is I can get along with all the other council members and make sure all of Salinas is thriving. Because we're not going to do well if only one district is thriving. We all need to thrive. We all need to work together and keep building this great community. I'm adopted here. I'm from Seattle. I moved here 15 years ago. I love the city. I love these people. I'm involved in what I'm in because I see such a potential in Salinas and growing and being what it can be together.
So thank you. I want to thank each of our candidates for their time tonight. Thank you for being here tonight and for the questions that was raised. And as the co-moderator, Adriana, it's my privilege to serve on this panel with you. And I want to remind you all, if you have not registered yet, to please get out and vote. There is a registration link in the back as you exit the building. But once again, thank you for your time, and to our candidates, they did a really wonderful job. Thank you.
I appreciate that, and don't forget that at the back, you can register at 11:59. Today is the last day to register. Es el último día para registrarse. Es importante. Remember, your voice is your vote. You have to vote. It's important. Because there, no podemos quejarnos. Si no votamos, no nos podemos quejar. It was it was an honor to be part of this forum today. Fue un honor ser parte de este foro, porque en la información está el poder. In the information, there's power. And all of you are making a difference being part of this forum. And thank you for all the candidates today. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the evening.
We also want to thank our production crew.